They call them the Rolling Thunder. High Octane. Full Throttle. The legendary Saturday Night Heroes. I reckon let's give it a start. How's it, chaps, and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Night Heroes. Back here in the garage studio of sorts. Today we're having a conversation with Gary Fleming, and I've got my co-host here, Rudi Mostert. And I don't think, Gary, you don't really need any introduction. But before we get to that, we're going to give you one. Just a word from our sponsors. We don't have any, so if any of you guys want, if any of your viewers want to sponsor the show, get hold of us. We're keen to try and work with anybody. Otherwise, if you do end up enjoying the video, please give it a thumbs up. We need all the likes and subscribers that we can get. And you guys, it's always nice to hear from all of you. So leave comments in the comment section on the YouTube video. Go to the Facebook page. Go to the Instagram page. Leave likes and comments there. As I said, it's really nice to interact with our audience. Now that those formalities are out of the way, as I said, Gary,
over to you.
I don't think you need any introduction, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Well, I suppose most people know me as the commentator. Some people refer to me as the voice of Oval Track South Africa. And I've been very, very lucky that through the years, through the decades, my racing career has evolved in the commentary side of things more than writing and actually racing myself. And it's put me in a situation where I get the opportunity to move around the country, see the best meetings, and I got the best seat in the house as well. And whatever information is available on TV screens and phones and what have you, it just makes it an amazing journey.
But it's not only Oval Track. You do all like main circuit as well, and you even mentioned Rallycross earlier.
Rallycross, that's something we must talk about at some stage. Yeah, main circuit, Killarney International Raceway is the nearest main circuit to me in Cape Town, and then obviously Cape Town Drivers, Tygerberg Raceway, Klein Plasie is the three main gravel and tar circuits that we have there. And then we've got gravel karting, Swartland Oval, Cape Oval Dirt Karting in Zone 7. So we got three of those, and then obviously the karting at Killarney as well. And then you have Half Main, you have the local rallycross that goes down there. You got Street to Strip on a Wednesday. You got robot racing on a Friday.
And you're there
for everything.
Most of
well, if there's an off day, then we ride Sky Electrics. We've got 6 Sky Electrics tracks in the area as well.
Jeez.
And then worst case scenario on a Sunday, if you don't have to do the garden, then you go down to Zone 7 and there's radio control. Yeah. So yeah, we tend to get a little bit of motorsport in Cape Town. Yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little bit. So your main claim to fame currently and for the last many years is your commentary on motorsport, but I believe that you did race in your earlier years, and you were involved from 30 years back in racing.
5 years, I think 35 years. You said.
Look, I can remember motorsport fairly clearly from about 1975. I can remember more from 75 than what I actually did yesterday. As you get older, you meet new people every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually raced for 5 years, mainly at Tygerberg Raceway, mainly on gravel. The first year I bought a motor car, a Mark II Golf. I turned that into a heap of junk in my learning curve. I thought
you mean you rolled it, crashed it?
Well, I put it into the wall pretty hard that it looked very different from where I was sitting. I broke the seat, in fact, when I hit the wall so hard.
But you didn't get injured?
No, just my pride in my pocket was hurt quite badly. Somebody that I was involved with quite heavily for 6-7 years, Grant Monji, said to me, the only way a front-wheel drive turns, point the wheels in the direction you want to go and put your foot in the accelerator. And this car didn't turn very well. So I went flat foot down Tygerberg Raceway's main straight, and I got to the end of the straight and I turned the front wheels in the direction I think that I should be going, and I kept my foot flat. Then I realized, but this is not working very well. So maybe I must lift off slightly. So I started lifting off a little bit, and we were still heading towards the scene of the accident. So, okay, now I've got to choose. I must either keep my foot flat and limit the angle that I'm going to hit the wall, or I must climb on the brakes, I'm going to hit it slower, but I'm going to hit it at the wrong angle. Well, I did both. When I opened my eyes again, I'd hit the wall and come off it and hit the wall again. And the left-hand front bonnet pin was a lot closer to me than what it was before the incident. But yeah, it made it a lot better thereafter. I won the Tigerberg Raceway 2.1 modified saloon title once against the likes of Hansi Moore, which was fantastic. Twice second and once third. And then we had 3 racing cars going at that stage of the fight. My daughter was racing and my son. And it just became impossible time-wise. So I eventually hung up the gloves as a successful driver. So to go back now and not be success, whatever you rate as successful, you can't do it. What gives me the right to talk about your brain fade when I can't do it myself anymore?
Yeah,
so
that's
I
true.
tend to rather talk about it and try and do it myself at this stage.
And I mean, if you had the opportunity, would you still do it for fun?
Oh,
no,
yes.
not for fun as in like full time, but I mean, do you look
yes.
forward to getting into a car every now and again and
Whenever
sending
I
it?
get the opportunity, my son's presently racing 1660 modified saloons.
And your daughter said got a mini. You said she started
my
with a mini.
daughter started at the age of 15. We got her a gravel mini. Then we thought, we got a tar mini first of all. Then we thought, hold on a second, if she can do a bit of gravel, then she will learn quicker. So we took the tar mini, stuck it on the gravel, and then we decided, no, this is not going to work because it's different specs. So eventually she had, before she turned 18, she had 2 racing cars on a trailer and she didn't have a driver's license. And then eventually I sold both minis and put her in the Clubman's racing at Killarney with a Opel Kadett with a 2-liter supercar motor in it. And she was very, very successful, very popular. And she did very well for herself. She's got more trophies than what I've gotten. I mean, it hurts, but it's nice.
And are you eventually wanting them to progress up to a bigger, more powerful classes like the V8s, late models, or
At the moment now,
mixed feelings
my
about-
daughter hasn't raced now for about 5-6 years. She discovered boys and houses and cutlery and crockery and things which she liked. So I get her in the car every now and again, but her future as such is getting married in December and probably immigrating to Ireland. So I think her racing career in South Africa has pretty much come to an end for now.
If I may ask, the difference between gravel track and the tar track now, oval track, is there a big difference with setting up the cars? Because I mean, I've never done the tar track.
Yeah.
And
No, there's a big difference. Remember, if you take a car with 100 kilowatts and you put it on the tar, you can put 100 kilowatts down. You take that exact same car, you put it in the gravel, you can only get 80 kilowatts of that down. It's a different story. So when it comes to power to weight on a tar oval car, it's much more significant than if you get into more powerful, like what you're racing now at Victory Raceway. If you put that on the gravel, if I've got 10 kilowatts more or less than you, it doesn't matter. You can only get X amount down. So you get to a point where if you've got too much power on the gravel, it actually becomes slower because it's more difficult to drive. And obviously you've got much less weight transfer on the gravel track because you don't have as much traction. So you go much stiffer springs on the tar as to the gravel.
Base faster on tar as well.
Not
What are the
necessarily,
times?
because your tar tracks are normally shorter than your gravel tracks.
I've actually never been to one of those tar races.
Yeah,
so
neither
that's why I'm
have I.
asking.
Neither have I.
What happens is if you take a tar oval car, which is very good on the tar, and you put it in the gravel, in the beginning of the night when the track is loose and wet, because of the stiff suspension, you go nowhere fast whatsoever. Only thing you do fast is head towards the scene of the accident. Once the track gets harder and drier and you've got more weight transfer when you go through the corners, then you find that tar car setup cleans up the average gravel car setup.
That's why the front wheel drives do so well at like on Victory now. I'm using them as an example now. The front wheel drives do well at in the finals. Because
That's when the track is compacted and hard again.
Yes. So
Obviously, anything that you have the motor on top of the driving wheels, you're going to get better traction in the wet. But it's not a cut and dusted as to front wheel drive or rear wheel drive when you're talking between 130 and 165 kilowatts. In general, the rear wheel drives tend to do better because you can't get more than 135, 140 down on a front wheel drive. It just doesn't work unless you add the weight where you're going to a 6-cylinder like what you've got. But other than that, you'll find that in general, your hot rods and your 2.1 modified saloons in the modern era is all rear wheel drive.
And just before we move too far away from your specific racing history, there were generally 3 questions that we always asked race drivers that are currently racing, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you'll probably remember this. And we're asking everybody. And I want to know if you can remember back to when you first started racing, and then maybe what you think about that answer now. What goes through your mind when you were getting ready for a race, as in like pulling on your gloves, getting your helmet in, a seatbelt strapped in? What is, and especially maybe on those big nights for you?
Well, let's put it this way. Initially, when you're sitting in the pits and you're doing nothing, listening to the commentator and watching the cars going past the gate with the race that's before you, the biggest difficulty is to get your hand inside your visor to wipe the tears out of your eyes because you are so nervous you can hardly talk. You have to open the visor up because even though you're sitting doing nothing, you're hyperventilating and you don't even realize
Just
it.
fogging
You
up
tend to
maybe,
at the bottom of your helmet kind of thing. And then a kind of a calmness comes over you when you go out onto the track, when you go out the gate and you can hear the commentators chatting and saying what's what and what have you. And you go from this, what on earth am I doing, to what must be, must be. This is what I am. This is what I do. If I wreck it, I'm going to wreck it. But I'm not going to go out there and be a sissy. This is what I do. This is what I am. And you get a kind of a calmness that comes over you.
And that's you kind of getting into the zone then on the track, and you're starting
Yes.
to really focus then on what's happening.
You have to. If you work on the car to the last second, jump in half, get yourself strapped in, get one glove on, pull out, and busy putting your other glove on while you're coming up to the line, you do not drive as well. There's no doubt about it. What I used to do, I used to climb in the car when the race before mine goes out. I climb in the car and I will sit for the duration of your complete race. I'll sit in the car quite calmly, try and have a smoke that the wife doesn't see, and out of the bottom of the helmet, and then be guided and calm when you get out there. Initially, when you start racing, you know you must do certain things, and you'll come out of the corner and check everything, and you'll look into the next corner. Okay, everything's fine. I must remember the temperature, and you look at the gauges, and you look back, and you think, okay, so what did I see? Okay, I'll check down the next straight. And you get through the corner. As you go through the corner, you look, okay, it's all open over there. You get it out. You just say, well, I'm doing pretty decent. I must remember the temperature. And you look at the gauge, you look back, say, what did I see? And it still doesn't make sense. And when you come into the pits afterwards and the pitman says to you, well, now, did you keep an eye on the gauge? Is it cooling enough, or what's happening? You know what? I looked 10 times, but I can't tell you. Yeah. In latter years, you get to the point where you come out of the corner and you're still in a four-wheel drift and you got your foot flat, and you take one hand off the steering wheel and you point to the wife and kids as you go past them,
like how's it?
Kind of thing, and you see who is operating around the circuit, and you show them 3 to go or 2 to go. You're plugged into the zone. Then you see so much more, but initially all you see is that and a corner
tunnel vision
and
type
that.
thing,
Even the gauges are too far away.
Jeez, yeah. I mean, I can relate to that with my other line of work, but definitely so the more experienced you get, the more comfortable you get.
No doubt.
And then what goes through your mind when you're on that sighting lap and then you're just about to pull away? Let's say you're in first or second position.
Well, when you start racing, survival is the first word that comes to mind. It's a case of you look at who's behind you and you wonder if they're going to whack you going into the first corner, and you try and devise where you think the people are going to be and try and stay out of trouble.
So is that quite a big worry about who might nudge
It's a
the rear of
major
your car?
worry because you've got a limited amount of budget. Your wife's watching, your kids is watching, that guy that said he might sponsor you is watching. You've got your own expectations. You don't want to go home having disappointed yourself because you fancy yourself as being pretty decent. I mean, that's why you started in the first place. Yes. And then you're scared that you can let yourself down. As time goes by and you become more successful and you get to a point where, okay, who can possibly beat me here? How do I get around that factor? Do I get a gap? When you get to the front, do you lift off slightly and try and be utterly clinical and force the other person to ride 11 tenths to get you? Then the fun starts when he wants to try and pass you.
Yes.
Or do you just hang it out there and go crazy and make it that he can't catch you? And that runs through your mind all the time. And the more experience you get, the more balanced you become in what you think and what you do and how you react. And I never won a lot of races, but I started and finished just about every single race.
But consistency
won me my titles, as opposed to other people that beat me every single time. When I raced against Hansi Moore, multiple South African champion, and I beat him over the period of a season. One, because the first meeting of the season, he blew the motor. and he got no points. And the second meeting of the season, he rode the first race and never came back out again. So I had a batch of points on him. And I worked out that he can win every single race. I come second every race. He still can't catch me. So I could run second, third. Every single night he would stand on the top of the tower and I would be looking up at him. And at the end of the season, he still hadn't caught me.
Won.
So consistency is more important than a Saturday night hero that goes out there and does it all right for one night, and for the next 3 meetings you don't finish the race.
Exactly. And I think that's actually something that Lene brought up is the consistency thing. And then the last part of it is what is going through your mind then on that last lap when the white flag comes out, and let's say you are in first or second position. I mean, that's quite serious.
That 22 seconds becomes a major portion of your life that you start praying and driving at the same time. You get to a point where you think, if something goes wrong now, I'm going to lose everything that I've done in the last 6.5 minutes of total utter terror and sweat and pain and what have you. And you get to a point where you try and balance out the showmanship side of it for the people that's watching you, the result that you're going to get, and you don't want to give the guy that's not that far behind you the look in of maybe he's battling a bit and he pushes that little bit harder and things change. Once again, it becomes that balance in your mind to not go wild. You've seen how many people on the last lap, they
get lapped. Not lapped, but overtaken.
You can't beat me. I can give the win away to you. And how many people
actually has happened to me. I said it in our first episode. Leno from George, you literally won me on the last corner. Like he came, pushed his nose through, and he's got that BM, that box-shaped BM, and he pushed through. Muller. And I thought I was going to win this, and then he pushed through, and I was like, just
But then again, you were beaten by Lino Muller, who is very, very good, who is very, very consistent.
Exactly.
And he has the standing that he's got in oval track racing because he is a balanced type of driver. That's why.
So Karel van Heijsten that races with me as well in heavy metals in PE at Victory Raceway in PE. So he's first on the standings in the club points at the moment, even though, I mean, he doesn't always win. Sorry, I'm not sure. I don't even think he's won a race now recently, but he's first on his standings because he's been consistent.
Spectacular, because I remember the name.
Yeah, Gary Fleming. He's always we always have fun together. He's a real showman as well. I mean, he puts it sideways, and you can see him on the track. He always loves it. So yeah,
and so it's something I just realized now. Maybe for those viewers that are new to the sport and to racing in general, actually comparing them to, let's say, somebody that's got 10, 15 years racing experience. Would you say it's fair to say that when you're starting out, you're racing a physical race, and then the guy that's got 10, 20 years experience, he's racing a very strategic race?
Definitely. No doubt about it.
Anybody getting into the sport mustn't worry. You will definitely be on a different level.
When you start racing, you're competing against yourself and everybody around you and the circuit. When you get more in the latter years and more experience and more track time as such, it's more a case of where's my state of mind. I'm racing the track to get around the track as quick as possible, because the quicker I get this over with, the less chance there is of somebody beating me.
Yes.
And the obstacles is the good car driver combinations around you. The other obstacle is the bad car driver combinations around you. And how do I get past those people quicker than you that's on the same pace as me? Remember, a guy like Ayrton Senna always worked on the basis of, on the very first lap, most people can't ride 10/10s because of brake temperatures, tire temperatures, getting in the zone, etc., etc. The first lap, Ayrton Senna was always the fastest man out there. And he would get a bit of a gap. Then he would ride 9/10s from there, and he would force you and everybody else to ride 10/10s. The chances of him making a mistake was much less than you. And one by one, those mistakes happened behind him. He didn't have to race the whole field. He only had to race 3 or 4 guys that were not making mistakes. And even then, they had to push harder than him because of the fact that he'd initially made that bit of a gap on there. And that's what he did right through his career. That's why somebody like Alain Prost found him, the professor, said that this man's very, very dangerous because he doesn't believe he can get hurt, and he will go for the gap because he thinks the gap's going to open. And people tended to make way for him, and that is why him and Alain Prost...
Forcing the gap.
That's why him and Alain Prost eventually became heavy rivals, because Alain realized if he backed out for Ayrton Senna would cut him every single time. And that is why there were some of those amazing finishes to races where they would both end up not finishing the race. But Ayrton has done his homework before the time, and he knows if neither of us finish, I win the championship. So go for the dive. It's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll both
He'll
go
win.
together. As long as you don't restart, you restart and I don't. So he would take you with him.
It's like Eddie Banks from PE, from PHR. He's
ultimate showman.
He makes his way through. He doesn't care, but I mean, he does on Scribanti as well. I've seen that guy taking out guys on the track as well. They chased him off. Even it's always fun to drive against him.
Okay, no. Well, moving on from the racing side, I want to also touch on the commentating side. So you did mention when you started commentating, or got out of the race car and behind a microphone and that type of thing. Did you find it easy to start, or how?
You were actually forced into it. You told me a story about.
Yeah, what happened was I started writing for the SA Oval magazine, Mac McCormack.
And the Son, eh?
And
the third page of the Son is the Son Courant.
The one just behind the page that you go and look at first. That page. That was the motoring edition. I actually started writing around about 98 for the SA Oval magazine, and then I was at a race meeting at Tygerberg Raceway around about 2000, the beginning of 2000, somewhere around there. And Frankie Hearnes, voice West Brom's Motorsport, and Werner Krichler, also a very capable COC and commentator back in the day, they had organized that they could do some pitmac racing. So they called me across. They said, listen, we've got drives. We want to go and do the pitmac races because it's the last meeting of the season. And we need you to sort of like just talk a bit. So I said, well, I don't commentate it. He said, but you can write. Whatever you would write, just say it. So, well, not really. So they said, well, as the cars come out now, just like say who's coming out kind of thing. So I said, well, here's Pietie and Yanni and Sunny and what have you. And then they said, okay. I said, all right, there's the mic. I said, no. When I pull away, just like talk about the first lap. Whatever you see, just talk about it. So, okay. So I pulled away and came past and right, it's the first lap, right? They're gone. And they were sitting on the bench. They said, no. Carry on. You can't keep quiet. You must now say something. So I spoke. And at the end of the race, I said, you can't, come on, man, you make an idiot of me here. I don't know what I'm doing here. So Frankie picked up the mic. He said, well, thanks very much, folks, for the rest of the day. Your commentator, Gary Fleming, he'll be doing the rest of the meeting. Fran and myself, we've organized ourselves cars to race with. And Gary, make sure that you commentate like on us. Thanks, bud. Yeah. Cheers, goodbye from my side. Frankie and us, goodbye, everybody. And they gave me the microphone and they walked away. He said, and now? So carry on. I'll come clean up afterwards. I'll come back everything away. So, yeah, I ended up commentating the rest of the meeting. Just said what I thought kind of thing, like hid away in the corner, hope nobody could see me. And then I was invited to go to Killarney the following week. And I went with Frankie down to Killarney. There was a little half-circuit meeting. And there's a 44-gallon drum with an amplifier on top of it and a microphone. So he says to me, this is micro midget. Oh, okay, that's lovely. This is Formula M. Lovely, great. So after the first Formula M race, Frankie says to me, there's a little guy with orange hair in the pits. He's just won that race now. His name's Kwesi Veyers.
Oh, yeah?
Kwesi. Yeah. Go and fetch him. I want to do an interview with him. There was the very first race that Kwesi Veyers ever won on the Formula M car down at Killarney. 12 SA titles later and having been to the World Championships, etc., etc. So I went to fetch this little like I said, you Kwesi? He says, ja, oom. So I said, come with me. Like, look to me. I said, man, moenie worry nie, jou pa, so right, come. So when I got back there, Frankie gives the microphone to me and he gives one to the lighty and he says, okay, interview him. I said, what? He says, interview him.
Off the top of your...
I've never done this in my life before. I don't know, hello, young man.
Did you have this distinguished voice by then?
I don't know, I was born with this thing. Luckily or unluckily. Yeah. So I interviewed Kwesi Veyers, never realizing that this young lad that had just won his first ever race would be somebody I'd commentate on for decades to come. And he would be the reason for me going to England and going to the Hot Rod World Championships at Ipswich.
Oval track.
Oval track, yeah.
That must be quite interesting. Yeah.
Amazing.
Did he go watch or go commentate?
I went with Kwesi as his mentor because his father didn't see chance to be out of the country for 2 weeks at that stage. So he set it up for Kwesi and myself to go to England, and we went to about 8 different circuits. We were welcomed wherever we went.
And you raced at all 8?
No. We then went and spectated at the other tracks to go and look, see, and what have you.
But Kwesi didn't race?
Kwesi actually raced in the World Hot Rod event,
just at one,
which was like about 280 cars that was there. Utterly amazing the whole weekend, and having had that experience to see how they go about presenting a race. We race. You can come and watch. it's fine. Ons is besig. Just do your braai, do whatever you do, it's fine. Okay, we finished now, pack up your braai, you must go home. They do it the opposite way around. The people arrive. The people are entertained. They've got massive big box speakers with black bags because it rains every 20 minutes. And there's pumping music, and there's little girls with bikini tops and what have you. There's cars that's got railings around the back, then they ride around with a checkered flag. They
make a whole day of it.
They entertain the public. We do it the opposite way around, and I learned a massive amount in that 2 weeks we were there.
I wish we can actually start doing that more.
The entertaining section. And I've noticed that I watch, not a lot, but I watch a fair amount of Monster Jam, the Monster trucks. And they go out, the drivers go out to entertain the crowd. They don't go out to compete against each other. I mean, they do compete, but all of them, like, we are here to entertain you.
I think there's a fair amount of choreography with that as well.
Yeah, of
even
course,
when they have the different divisions. I was lucky to go to one of them in Cape Town with the Monster Jam trucks, and where they do all these backflips and etc. etc. And
it was a brilliant show.
It was, I must say, it was in the international arena where we had the World Soccer Cup. So it's nice to go back into that massive arena again. And it is choreographed. I mean, being in the industry, you can see when things is choreographed. But still, the spectacularness of what they're doing and the level of equipment that they've got and the quality of the drivers that they've got makes it an experience.
And especially, I would say, like, for Dad wants to come and watch the racing. He likes the fast cars. But Mom, if I'm entertained, that's more. That's what I want to see. I'm not really into the cars. And
somebody's got to braai.
Well,
and then you miss racing, so bring mommy with.
Exactly. But, and then as long as there's something for the kids to be entertained, that type of thing. So an entertainment is actually quite a big part of it. And
it's a massive part of it, and it's not a big enough piece in terms of, and I'm not bashing motorsport in South Africa, it's purely what I've learned from going to England and what I have been told. So with people like Günter Drotsky, G&A Promotions, they make all the race suits and what have you. They've been to America and they've gone to a lot of the NASCARs and Outlaws and what have you. And they've also tried to teach me a little bit through the years as to how to present an event. And we don't do enough of that.
Okay. Because, I mean, Rudi, you're kind of a entertainer. You might not come first all the time, not often. But
jeez, I try to.
We've got to put some drama into the episode, But I mean, you are quite known as quite a showman. I mean, you hang it out sideways there.
Well, it's there for the spectators. We're there for the spectators. I don't love when the spectators.
It's brilliant.
The only shit thing now is with the online racing when there's no spectators.
Live,
so I'm hanging out for no one. So for the few people that's there, but
then again, the excitement for yourself.
That's the thing.
You strap in, you get that adrenaline rush. And just, it's a case of, I've worked hard from Monday to Friday. I've earned the right to be here. I've paid my dues. I'm going to go out there and go and have fun. This is from me, for me, to me. The fact that there's people watching is fantastic. The fact that they appreciate it is fantastic. But you've got to do it for yourself.
The one thing people don't understand or don't know, we don't really get time in the cars. That night that we're racing, that's the only time I get in the car. The first time I get in the car is to pull it onto the trailer or just take it down the road, do a quick donut in front of my neighbor's house or something like that, make them angry, and put a car on the trailer, and then we get to the track.
You did say it looks for attention. Well,
there we go.
As they say, work for a week, race for a minute.
Exactly.
It's a fact. So, if you take the amount of time that you spend in total around that race car and divide the amount of time that you actually are sitting in the car with the car running, if you work out what every minute in that race car costs you in terms of rands and cents and in terms of time to get to there,
it's dedication.
You try and play golf or something.
And that's exactly why I appreciate my dad so much. I'm also saying my mom as well. She's always making the food first. But like my dad spends a lot of time on the car. I mean, I'm almost like a.
You're the driver.
I'm the driver. So
he's the pit crew.
I mean, he loves working on the cars, but he spends a lot of time in the car. And I mean, I just get in most of the times and race. He's busy working on the car now while we're sitting here.
Well trained. You got your crew where you need
them.
And
I'm going home. My mom's going to have my food ready there for me. And
what a boy. The ultimate race driver.
Yeah. And I reckon we actually need to say a big thank you then to all the pit crew and everybody that doesn't drive, that actually puts time and effort into the cars, the race teams, and then actually the tracks as well. Yeah. Gary, I wanted to ask you, do you enjoy commentating more than racing? Like physically being in the car racing?
Let's put it this way. It's two different types of poisons. Getting into the racing car, the adrenaline rush is amazing, but as you get older, you realize the side effects if things go wrong, if you hit the wall badly, you can't do your grey 9 to 5 or Monday to Friday. The worrying factor becomes bigger as you become slightly more advanced in your way of thinking and what have you. But that ultimate adrenaline rush, there is nothing to replace that. Once a person's been in a race car, in a race, you will never get that out of the memory bank. You'll never forget any moment of that. You will always yearn to be back there. As you get older, you realize your abilities start becoming more reduced, your reflexes, etc., etc. But the want to drive, 90% of people never ever goes away. No, it never goes away. Give me half a chance. Well, with what I'm doing now with the Second Gear Talk Show, I've actually created a segment. I'm busy with it at the moment now where we do car testing.
Okay.
Why?
That's quite nice.
Why?
Nice. Yeah,
because it's an excuse to get into a racing car. Like, bring your car, I'll drive it for you kind of thing. But I won't very easily get into a car in a competitive environment format now. Because of the fact that I haven't raced much for the last 10 years, I won't be on the pace that I used to be because of being rusty and also because of age. And you've got it. There's a time to come and there's a time to go.
Yes. And now it's just enjoyment.
Whenever I get a chance, I go out and I do a couple of laps. And I was actually quite surprised. Recently, we went out to Worcester, and the Pirinalter PR Services, he is the brains behind the finer detail setup of so many motor cars. Okay. And we were doing a bit of testing, and I warmed the motor up. I happened to go around the track just to warm things up and see what was what. And it wasn't 2.5 laps, and I was flat foot coming through the corner, getting into a 4-wheel slide, just enough to be able to stop and tell them, look, guys, it's definitely improvement from what it was. Let my son get into the car and carry on. But what a rush!
Yes, yeah, I can imagine that.
It's brilliant.
So what was your best car that you drove? Like your top, if you can?
I never drove anything. Well, the very first thing I ever drove was a Sandmaster. Then that was what eventually became your midgets of today. The second thing that I drove was a little Alpha 33 around the Goodwood Showgrounds.
So you're a true petrol head. They say you're not a petrol head if you haven't driven an Alpha before.
Well,
I've heard that.
Yeah.
You drive your friend's Alpha, you don't buy one.
Oh, yeah.
Drip trays is getting expensive, so you tend to stay. Now, look, I mean, there's a lot of racing parts that comes off Alphas, make no mistake. But historically, Golf Mark 1 was where what I did and used. And
you said you built the first with Jess Haggard?
The very first Mark 1 Golf that ever went onto an oval track in South Africa was during the period of time that I pitmacked for multiple SA champ Jess Haggard. Yeah. He was one that actually gave me the first opportunity to become really involved in the pits, etc.
Is he still racing?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Probably. How old is he now then?
Jesse's 63.
Okay, so
he's still
racing.
He's still as quick as what he ever was. He runs Clubman's at Killarney, Mike's Place Clubman's, with a Jetta with a 2-litre motor in it.
Yeah.
That's impressive to be still racing at 63.
Yeah. And like building the first Golf, because when you look at the 16, especially the 1660 class now, like, I don't know if
they're getting faster.
There's so many Golfs now.
Well,
so that's
the reason why there's so many Golfs. It's tried and proven technology. If you go now and you build and no disrespect, a Hyundai Accent, who can you ask what springs, what shocks, what gear ratio, what gearbox? Golf, there's 150 people that can say to you in a 1660, a 1632 to second gear, a 192 ratio, that's what you need. There's nothing else. If you're going to go 2-litre, you use a 1444 ratio third gear, and you go to a 289 gearbox, or you can go to the 3.1. It's all there.
So it's decades of development.
And it's not that expensive in a Mark 1 because there were so many built through the years from 79 up until when did they stop making Mark 1 Golfs. So there's lots of parts available. You don't have to do anything stupid. The downside of the Mark 1 Golf is that in the modern era, you can't use it in a 2.1 modified or hot rod situation because you can't build all the nice bits and pieces in to get the shocks, etc., etc.
Yes.
So it's the ultimate, to a certain degree, 1660 right now, and stock rod.
Are you sure about the Mini? And that Mini that won at Oudtshoorn now recently.
Getting quite fast.
Okay, but remember that is a one-off. That's a 1500 Nissan motor which is in that Mini, and it's driven by one of the most talented oval track racers in South Africa, JP Jr., who is in fact the reigning South African 1660 champion. And in that motor car, which was built by JP Senior, who's a 7 times Tygerberg Raceway 1660 champion, nobody has ever won the title 7 times apart from him. There's one other person that's won the V8s 5 times, and that man has built more racing cars than what you and I had breakfast.
Okay. So the key thing then with the Golfs is actually it's very accessible, because you always need newcomers into the sport. So it's not cheap, but it's relatively cheap compared to some of the other bigger classes. Very accessible. There's a lot of knowledge. So for those of you that actually want to get into stock cars, that might be a good start.
Definitely, because you can build a factory stock Golf. In fact, you can, as a junior development, you can, at most of the clubs now, run with a Mark 1 Golf, with a 1400 motor, whatever you. Then you can go to factory stocks with it, and you can run 1600 or 800 if it's factory stocks, or whatever derivative of that they've got. And then from there, you can use that exact same body and go to 1660s. So you don't have to go and change complete car-driver combination all along, and that is why there are so many of those Golfs out there. It works. It's something that works. Yeah. Like in the olden days, you had Anglias and Mark 1 Escorts. Well, there was a period of time that was the real deal.
To get a body now, Anglia body or Escort body, that's also...
You buy a bundle of rust and it's in the shape of an Anglia. It doesn't... But I mean, it wouldn't work in the one era. It's too heavy, too bulky.
And they say the Anglia's back window is guaranteed that Bert can't shit on it.
Yeah, that's true. There's a question that I actually wanted to know. Now it relates to what's happening today specifically, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers have. I've had people not specifically asking and leaving comments, but people have physically been asking. You guys have been asking me physically over the counter, so to speak. What does it take to prep for a day? So this afternoon you are going to Victory Raceway. You're going to be commentating. There's how many entries? Do you know?
70. Last time I saw 72.
72, but there's a possibility of some more still.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people. Now you've, for lack of a better words, you almost need to know every single person. How? I mean, it comes from experience of many, many years, yes. But surely on the day there's still stuff that you need to do. Can you walk us through that?
On a typical day, luckily I've done 2 meetings back at Victory, and I was actually lucky. I did the very first race meeting ever at Victory Raceway, but obviously everything's changed since then. So there's a good couple of the guys that you do know, but obviously people change cars, sponsors change, colors change, etc., etc. So typically what I'd do is I'd go down to the circuit, take the draw, write the whole draw out, all the numbers, then I'd go and put the names next to it. Then I would go and sit with somebody that's knowledgeable and say, that specific driver, what's the latest? 2nd overall in the championship, 3rd year of racing, a bit off the pace at the moment, sweating it out. This guy, tell me about him. And so I would make notes. And then with those notes and knowing what the groupings are when they come out onto the circuit, you're already semi-prepared when they come out onto the track. As long as it doesn't change too much in the first lap or 2 or 3, in general, when you're busy with the front grouping, you look at the top end of your notes, and then the rest you look at the bottom end of your notes. Once you get to know more of the drivers, you've got 3 of the front 5 that you know off the top of your head, and the ultimate showman, Eddie Banks, in his Sierra, white with a blue stripe with the yellow at the bottom and what have you. You know he's going to get to the front at some point. So somebody like you don't have to worry to write any notes. Yeah. But then you go and stick your fingers on your notes on the ones that you don't know off the top of your head. And I can say, there comes Eddie Banks. I can say, there comes Eddie Banks, the ultimate showman. I buy myself a bit more time to think. I can say, there comes Eddie Banks, the ultimate showman in 2nd position. I buy myself more time because I don't know what the name of the guy is behind him. I can say, there comes Eddie Banks, the ultimate showman in his 2-door Sierra, a man that's very... All I'm doing is I'm buying time.
And while you're doing that, you actually just...
While I'm doing it, I'm trying to... Where is this Mostert? Where is this guy?
I was actually in front of Eddie, that one race.
That's why
in my Sierra, not a Sapphire.
That's why I couldn't work out where it was.
That's why we're laughing now.
What is the difference between a Sierra and a Sapphire?
And you said a Sapphire. I was like, no, it's a Sierra.
The Sapphire is the one with the boot at the back, and the Sierra is the... Like one day, FC Nivot, one of the commentators down in Cape Town, he said, the Mark 1 hatchback Golf, So I said, okay, Mark 1 hatchback as opposed to what?
Yeah.
What other version of a Mark 1 Golf do you get? It's called a Fox.
Yeah, Fox. Yeah.
No, okay. That's so. There's a lot of prep that actually goes into it. Now, from a standpoint, now I'm not personally asking. I don't not want to get into commentating, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of viewers, not a lot, but probably a handful of viewers eventually down the line that may want to get into commentating in general, or maybe for motorsport specifically. Any how-tos or like advice you want to give to get started?
Yeah.
How do we go about that?
First of all, you're born with a voice. It either works on the mic or it doesn't. If you're lucky that you got a voice that works on a microphone, that is 50% of what you need. If you can have all the knowledge, all the passion in the world, but if you've got a voice that irritates people, why do you have so few women commentators? Because 9 out of 10
that deep
times,
voice.
not necessarily deep, but you don't talk from your throat. You don't talk from your chest. You talk from the base of your chest. It's either there or it's not there. Furthermore, you need to have major passion. You need to have as much knowledge as what you can possibly get. And you need to enjoy what you do. At the end of the day, I need to convince you that you're at the right place at the right time. And this is the most amazing thing that you could possibly do on a Saturday afternoon, is be here. So I need to be positive. I need to have the knowledge, and you need to have the right voice for it. Sure. Then you are a quarter of the way, because at the end of the day, a lot of people get stage fright. I say to you, come, let's do this thing. You know what it was like the first time that you came behind the microphone. You fancy yourself as being able to do it, and you don't need to worry to write notes because we're talking about what you know. But when you actually get behind the mic and it's on,
goes live,
you end up, and it's even now, after 2.5 decades of doing it, I still write notes. People think, where do you get the knowledge? How do I know so much about you when I interview you on my show? Yeah. Because I've sat for an hour before the time and I've done the homework.
A lot of admin that goes in.
Lots and lots of admin. But at the end of the day, as you add all that information together, the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting you go to becomes so much easier. And that's how you try and elevate yourself above the average commentator.
Sure. And this is not to say that women, the ladies out there, that they can't be commentators. I mean, they've been really coming up the ranks in the race car. So it would be awesome to see some of you ladies out there getting involved in well, obviously in motorsport, but in commentating maybe, you know.
There's a lot of very, very well-known and respected women in motorsport. Not so much in the commentating side, but more in the admin side and the organization and what have you. And there is a place for women in motorsport. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the average race meeting is run by probably 80% female and 20% male.
And without them, the race meeting wouldn't happen.
Achter elke man, né? Achter elke man.
Yeah.
So. Behind every successful man is his wife and his girlfriend. It works like that.
Well, you said it.
But you're also coming down, also coming down for POTR's race as well in about 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, this weekend's going to be Victory Raceway starting 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then
tomorrow,
straight after the race meeting, we're going to hit through to East London, and that'll be starting 11 o'clock tomorrow. And that'll probably go to around about 3, and then back to Cape Town on Monday. And then on the 31st, the 7 o'clock flight, we're coming back this side. We're going to find a legal way to get into Aldous Grabanti and move around and what have you, because that's going to be the final round of the Utinga Polo Cups, which we would love to get to watch, apart from the GTCs, etc., etc. And then we'll be going down to PEOTR, that meeting starting at 4 o'clock. And
we're going to be quite busy. And this is your normal lifestyle, man. You travel quite a bit into all these tracks. And
this must take a lot of traveling.
It is. I drive as far as George and Oudtshoorn from Cape Town. Furthermore, I fly. It's just, time-wise, you can't.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be on the road, sitting on the road for like 12, 15 hours. It's such a waste of time.
No.
But you mentioned how Scribanti or the main circuit here by us. I mean, I even made a post about it on Instagram quite a while ago, but there's not much spectators that go there. Just in general, I know we're in lockdown now, but like Port
you
Elizabeth,
find that stock cars is more supported.
Circuit racing. We need more support at these tracks. I mean, I'll go to most of the races, but then there's always open banks around you. I mean, guys must come and actually put a bra and bring your friends and put a gazebo.
Comes back to what we were saying. Look, entertainment. How much entertainment is there at a main circuit race? You sit.
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
And you're waiting for the commentator to tell you what's happening for that 40, 50, 60% of the circuit that you can't see.
Yeah.
Oval track, you're sitting in an arena, you can see everything, you can hear everything, you're so much closer. If you take the original PE track at the PE showgrounds years back, which you will remember, it was the most amazing sensation. Why? Because you were right on the edge of the track. It wouldn't be legal in today's terms because of the fact that you are so
Everything
close to the track.
was lower as well.
So if that guy comes past at 40 k's an hour with a gutter like that, which he uses as an exhaust pipe, it's the most amazing sensation as he comes past you. He blows your mind with the sound and the visual experience being so close to you. It's utterly amazing. The more you remove yourself away from it, the further away you are from the excitement, the visual and the audio gets reduced. And that is where a place like Cape Town drivers have got a problem because of the fact that because of Killarney in the way it is, you're so far away from the racing, it takes away a lot of the visual effect. Yeah. Then you've got to limit the amount of sound. You've got to go to 104 decibels, so you take away the audio. Now you're putting it on tar, so it's not as exciting to a certain way of thinking as what a gravel meeting is. There's people that enjoy the excellence and the type of driving that you have to do on the tar. But a lot of people just want to see the blood, sweat and tears on a gravel circuit. So it's entertainment, but it's a different style of entertainment when you go to a tar oval or to a tar main circuit.
And I mean, maybe for the smaller cars, you don't really feel them, but definitely the V8s, then you see them, you hear them, and with the V8s, you definitely feel them in your chest as they're going around. It's like a full rolling thunder, basically.
Yeah. And you still get Hoosiers then as well.
Well, that is why I dubbed the Hoosiers as the Rolling Thunder show at Tygerberg Raceway, which is an initiative which was brought about by the ex-owner of Tygerberg Raceway. And when he started with those late models, it was just the leading edge of technology in V8s as such, with the whole suspension geometry where when you climb on the accelerator, the back of the car lifts up and the diff actually twists underneath you, and you got these big gumball tires on there, and that runs with an exhaust pipe which is shorter than the front door of a Golf. It's like yay long, and that's it. And the amount of sound that you get from a 600, 700 brake horse motor on a short circuit like that, and then you got the wall, and when you come near to the wall, it reverberates that sound back. So your audio experience is massive when you watch something like that.
Those cars are also expensive.
It's impressive,
but they're also expensive. I just want to touch on something, but with racing, you've done racing now before. You've seen guys with a lot of money racing. I mean, we know a couple of people with warehouses full of cars, and I mean, you need money to actually race, right? To run in front. I mean,
well, in any sport, I think if you want to be in the top three, it's a lot of it comes down to affordability and can you afford to actually compete at that top level?
Because there's a lot of good drivers out there, but they don't always have the finances to race in front.
Yes.
If you look at a late model, the cheapest you're going to come up on a crate motor type late model, you're looking at about 200,000.
That's just for the motor.
No, for a complete car at the moment. Now, in fact, Zone 7. They are bringing in 10 cars, and they're going to be going for around about 220,000 each. But that's now crate.
Yeah, but then you still have to put it together.
No, it's a complete car. But that's like the beginning level of late models. You can put a factory stock together if you've got lots of friends in the right places. You can put an average little factory stock together for 15 to 20,000 rand. If you want a decent factory stock, you can start off at around about 25 up to 40,000. And then you literally got limited to a 16 or 1800 motor with a normal carb and exhaust manifold system on it. And you haven't got any fancy shocks. I mean, if you want to go and buy a decent set of shocks for your average hot rod and 2.1, you're looking at 10,000 rand a corner. So there's 40,000 rands worth of shocks.
So it adds up quickly if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's more expensive than women, no doubt.
And I mean, if you think, especially in the higher powered cars, there's not that there's really any compromise on safety, but in your late models, you go and buy that, as you say, the crate motor, but you've still got to put like tires, rims, seats.
And tires are expensive.
Seat belts. If you don't have a helmet, I mean, helmets can range into the tens of thousands for.
You can quite easily spend 10,000 rand on a helmet. The faster you want to go, the more it costs.
Yes.
But that is why there is so many different types of classes that there is in motorsport.
See, our studio is falling apart here. We might need to title this. Okay, that should be okay.
Should do it. That is why there are so many different classes to suit your pocket, your style, your abilities, and the different types of circuits that there is out there.
It's not like back in the day when my dad used to race at the showgrounds here. There was like, they raced 11 races in there for their class because there was only 2 classes. You had your 4 cylinders and your 6 cylinders. So that's it. And
unfortunately, in the modern era, we've ended up with a situation where there are, as far as I'm concerned, there's too many classes. Some of the tracks are running 10 different classes on a day.
That's a lot.
It's too much. If you go back to the days of Cape Showgrounds with the Cape L drivers, that was the premier club for probably 2 decades, having started in, I think it was 1958, if I remember correctly. Because, I mean, they've had their 50-year reunion. I think we did it 2 years ago, so it must be 58. There you would only have the V8s and you'd have the 4 cylinders. Yes. And that was it. But there would be 40 or 50 cars in each class. Yeah. So you would start off 3 abreast, 4 rows, there would be 12. And you would have 4 races of 12 cars with the guys with the highest points starting at the back, lowest points at the front, for each race meeting that you went out there. And at the beginning of a season, you would go to the practice session and they would look at you and say, okay, we'll practice and whatever, we'll check you out later on in the day. And then they would go and they would take the lap times of the fastest guys and they would say, all right, now let's see how far you off. And if you weren't within a certain percentage of that, they would say, come back when you sort it out, kind of thing. We can't allow you to race by us because of the fact that you are going to be lapped within 2.5 laps and it's going to cause chaos.
Yeah.
So you would go to some other track and you'd go and practice. Now, that was in the heyday of Cape L drivers at the showgrounds. But then you were sitting with 20, 22, 23,000 people at the average race meeting.
That's a lot of people.
You're lucky if you get 1,000 people at a race meeting on average these days. Yeah. So that was a completely different era. You can't compare that to now.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Different worlds.
And
it always changes.
And the rules change a lot. I mean, guys don't, back in the day,
Did you say a lot? You didn't say too much.
No, like my dad rolled his car once and he just...
Off the record, they changed too much.
Yeah, too much. Well, I don't know. I also don't want to be bumped the whole flipping time.
Yeah, sure.
Cars do get expensive, and I mean, I try to race clean. I try to.
The quicker you go, the less comes up from behind.
Yeah. So something also that I wanted to touch on here, Gary, I believe that you are involved in another talk show, Second Gear
Talk Show.
Can you tell us just a little bit about, we really want to help each other. I think we've got a slightly different audience. So for those of you viewers that do watch us regularly, whenever it comes out on irregular intervals, maybe go and support them, check them out. And Gary, can you tell us?
Second Gear Talk Show was actually started by Andries Ullewagen, the COC, one of the COCs from the PE area. And in fact, Chris Lindbergh, the ex-owner of Tigerberg Raceway, his daughter, Leonie, the two of them together actually started the Second Gear Talk Show. They had 2 or 3 episodes and they got a couple of 100 views and what have you. And then they asked me, would I be on the show as a guest? I don't really do talk shows, but okay, fine. So, I went and I sat there and I went with us, or we sit with the phone and, okay, right, that looks like it's quite fine. Okay, here we go. And it was on the Thursday and there was a fair amount of views and what have you. That was nice, something different. Always like some change. And then the Monday I got a phone call and I said, can you be on the show on Tuesday? Yeah, but we've covered everything, haven't we? So I want you to present the show.
Oh, wow.
I said, what? So I don't know how to present shows, so just ask questions. And
you've only been commentating for like 20, 30 years.
So okay, well, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but okay, I'll try it. And that's where the whole thing started. And that was right at the beginning of COVID. And Second Gear Talk Show has grown from there. And I just carried on doing it. And Andries has done a brilliant job in the background as well, I must say. That's where the technology comes into it, because I know how to open and close and enter. And I can put certain things on a computer. I can wipe anything off. So I leave that to Andries to
It's like Grant and I also just put on a computer. He does all the...
So, it's evolved quite phenomenally to the point where I could phone people like Sarah van der Merwe and say, would you like to be on the show? And I mean, I've had people like Sarah van der Merwe, Ben Morgenroot, Willie Hepburn, guys like that. I recently had Chris Aberdeen on as well.
I mean, you had us on there. I mean,
you guys
wow.
You've got to start somewhere. So it's very nice once you get to a point where if you contact somebody and you say, would you like to be on the show? And they actually know about it and they they've got a positive response to it that they would like to be on your show. It also becomes very rewarding when you get an opportunity to go one-on-one with a Sarah van der Merwe. Go and read Sarah van der Merwe's book, The Life and Times of Sarah van der Merwe. And I was lucky. I was the master of ceremonies for Sarah van der Merwe 50 years in motorsport at West Bromwich Motor Club. And then getting me on the show. And then also people say, but how do you know all this?
Yeah.
Purely because I went and I sat and I read the whole book and I made all my notes and what have you. And it sounds like you know what you're talking about, purely because you've done your homework.
You've done a bit of research, yeah.
You have to do research.
And you know Sorrel a bit personally now as well. You've learned.
Actually, a very nice guy. A lot of people thought that he was very, as he refers to his alter ego, which if you've ever read the book, you'll know about the whole alter ego thing of Sarah van der Merwe talking people in and out of races. He won certain races by intimidating the people verbally before the time. Making comments to the guy, and then the guy reacts on this because Sarel's now said this and that, and he goes and he does something and he pushes too hard and he ends up going off the circuit. And Sarel said to him, and then after Sarel says, "Well, you fell for it." What do you mean? So,
I know a few guys like that as well.
You can't talk somebody out. That is where the stability and the consistency comes into motorsport. It's not just how quick are my reflexes and my hand-eye coordination. You've got to be mentally prepared for it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, no, well, that's great. So for those of you, as I said, that please go and support them. Actually, go and support any of the motoring shows, any and every motoring show around.
Yeah,
it just helps support motorsport in general. Of course, come back and watch us every so often.
The more people are sitting by a racetrack, the more people that are watching a live show, the more people there are that will put their money where their mouth is and put a sticker on your car and put an ad on your screen, exactly. Because there's more people watching it. It's all those little bits and pieces together that makes it worthwhile for a company to go and sponsor somebody with the idea of, I would like to help you, but I'm going to get somebody walking into the shop on Monday saying, I see that you and Ruan are involved with the racing. Tell me, give me a price on. You're going to then carry on sponsoring because of the fact that people are coming to you and giving you the opportunity to do business with them because they're in the sport that we all love. Exactly. That's why we always say support those who support us in motorsport. When you do your grade 9 to 5 or Monday to Friday. And that is what a lot of people are doing now. Post-COVID-19, go and buy from people that are involved in motorsport so that you can afford to put down your money on race day and actually get out there on the circuit.
And just by the way, I do need stickers for my car, just saying.
Oh, yes, yeah. So if any of you guys want to sponsor some stickers for E91.
There we go.
Not a skimp at all.
I'm just watching the time here that we've probably hit about 55 minutes at a guess. Yeah, maybe 50 minutes, somewhere around there.
Go longer.
Well, we've got somebody, we've got another guest, and we've got racing. Of course, you've got to get to the racing later on.
I have originals to go win.
Well, there it is. What I did want to say, first of all, is there any sponsors actually that you want to thank? I mean, normally we open this up to anybody that we're speaking to, especially a lot of drivers have sponsors. Anybody that you want to thank?
I've been very, very lucky with the second year talk show. Because of the amount of time that I've ended up putting into it, I had to start getting some form of return from it. So Roshan McCree, West Cape Motor Space, was the one that actually said, why don't you make it slightly more professional? And he brought Bankos Videos on board to make my opening and closing videos and what have you, which that was a rave. Went down to Killarney, asked a couple of people.
That new video that you guys have, that's cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
We had a rave that day. I mean, those two main cars that you saw, the white and the yellow ones, those cars are like 1.6 million rand a piece, and they actually asked me, do I want to actually drive it myself to do the camera works? And no, definitely not. My pension's not big enough. But
you need to start taking me with you then.
Yeah, well, I actually wanted to, but then they wanted to take footage of me getting into the car. I said, no, that's not going to work. And getting out would be even, you need a much longer video to get me getting in and out of the car. But the likes of Roshan McCree, West Cape Motor Space, Bankos Videos, and then also Gunter Drotsky, GNA Promotions, that's made all the racing gear available. And he said to me, keep it, go and do testing of cars and what have you. Okay, and then nice. Extreme Science, Union Science, doing the sign writing. And then I put it out there that if anybody wants to put their logos around on there, and I had a whole host of people that linked up with that. Okay, so that was fantastic. So, yeah, I'm starting to get some return from it. It doesn't go just about making money out of it. It must be something that you enjoy. It must be something that you're passionate about. It's good for motorsport. You do the positive side, leave the negative side out of it, and it becomes a win-win situation.
Sure, yeah.
It's also an opportunity to have a one-on-one with legends in motorsport, and I have learned so much about that. And something else that I've actually learned, which I didn't realize, there's a lot of people in motorsport that but you don't really recognize them for what they actually do and what they're actually worth. And when you get opportunity to interview those people, you actually realize what an integral cog that person is in their racetrack, their sphere, their genre of motorsport. And it's actually opened my eyes up to how many people there are that put so much in the background and get very little. Everybody knows Gary Fleming. So it's like, wow, but what about the guy that does all the bits and pieces around me and he doesn't get any recognition for it? That's the people that we need to look after.
There's a lot of back scene stuff.
Plenty, and that's the people we must start looking after, because the more of those people there are in motorsport, the better it is for you on race day to go out there with your motor car in front of a big crowd of people, and you've got a beautiful surface, there's lighting, there's sound, there's live streaming, it's all there. Why? It's because of all those people in the background. Sure. And to those people, I say thank you very much.
No, that's wonderful. Now, towards the end of each episode, we like to have a little bit of fun. We've got 3 questions. The answers, you will know the answers to all of these. First thing that pops into your mind, and this is just for fun. Who is the best driver?
Ever.
That's the question. It's up to you how you want to answer it.
Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna, on paper, you don't have to like Lewis Hamilton, but he's brilliant. The likes of Sebastian Loeb, 9 times World Rally Champion.
Interesting. I suppose your background is in all motorsport. A lot of people are like, which stock car driver?
No.
It's really, this is why we ask it like this. Yeah,
nationally, the most successful, Sarel van der Merwe and Serge Damso in terms of what he's done for rally. In terms of oval track racing, the likes of Corey Sammons and Jesse Huggett. In terms of main circuit racing, probably the likes of Michael Briggs, Johan Fourie, people like that. There's just so many. Each one in his own right is good. And there are drivers out there that are better than every single name that I've mentioned. They have not had the opportunities, they've not had the sponsors, and they haven't realized their full potential. Those people have got the ability and they have had the opportunity. There are many others as well.
That haven't, yeah. And second question here, Toyota or Ford?
Well, if you buy a Toyota, you don't need to have a drip tray.
Yes. It's like our landlords don't like us dripping on the paving here, so we had to buy 2 Toyotas.
I would say the one that comes
Actually,
3.
The one that comes with a petrol card. There's good and bad in all of them. There is no one brand that is the ultimate. There are good and bad Toyotas. There's good and bad Fords.
Of course,
the one that comes with a petrol card, between those two, that's the preferable one for me.
True. And then lastly, rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive?
Front-wheel drive is more controllable if you've got good throttle response. It can be very, very thrilling to drive a front-wheel drive, but if you've got the power of the brute of Willie Hepburn and you can paint black stripes for 20, 30 meters and still be pointing in the right direction afterwards.
Rear-wheel drive for the win.
Rear-wheel drive for the win, front-wheel drive for the pure fun of putting it in a 4-wheel drift and playing with the accelerator and getting the maximum out of it.
And if we want the best wheels, just 4-wheel drive.
Well, 4-wheel drive is a completely different world. If you look at World Rallycross, where you've got stupid amounts of power, you've got a 1,280 kilogram car, but you're looking at 460 Newton meters of torque. And you're putting it through 4-wheel drive with more than 10,000 rands worth of shocks in every corner. Your power-to-weight ratio is so amazing. That is the one type of car that can do things quicker than what your average man's reflexes are. So the average man can't drive that car to the max. It's a certain type of person with quick hand-eye coordination that can do a World Rallycross car or a Grand Prix car or a Grand Prix bike. Because when you get to that level, the human being is on the edge of his abilities.
Okay. And anything Rudi, firstly, from your side, anything you want to add in closing words or anything?
I just want to know: are you into bike racing as well? Or
I wasn't,
superbikes?
because of my lack of good vision. When you come past me, I can see your number and your colours and whatever you. When you on your way through turn 4 out into the back main at Killarney, I can't even tell you how many colours are on your bike, no matter what the colours are. With the advent of probably around about 28 cameras around Killarney and a nice big screen that brings the racing closer. Yes, now I've been able to start doing a bit of the bikes as well. Love the super bikes.
Yeah.
Hayden Jonas, a multiple champion, is my advisor.
Okay.
And whenever I talk about MotoGP and Rossi falling in the first lap, that all comes from the Hayden Jonas. So having advisors like that as well also helps. I've sat in the commentary box and listened to Frankie Ernest, Francois Butler, Nick van der Meel, and Dr. Nick, who's now a professor, in fact, in Switzerland, who is a walking, talking dictionary on motorsport. So I've heard all about the Trevor Westmans and the what have yous. Now I've got the opportunity to do it and loving it.
Okay, no, nice. And any closing words from yourself? Anything you want to do generally? I don't know.
Thanks very much for having me on Saturday Night Heroes. Good luck going forward. Love your studio. I think you guys have got the right idea. You've got the passion for it. You've got the voice for it. You've got the looks. You don't have to do just radio. So it'll work for you as well.
Good sign.
But going forward, what you do can only grow. And as you learn, so you will find out how to advertise, where to advertise, what platforms to use. And from there on out, it just carries on by itself. If what you're doing is right, it'll keep
work.
on growing. And what you're doing is growing, so you are doing it right. Keep on doing what you're doing for motorsport. Love it. Honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you very much from my side.
And then, also Gary, thank you very much from our side, and I'm sure the viewers, thank you very much for joining us on the show. That is Gary Fleming. I guess that is it. If you enjoy the episode, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, like, and those comments. Remember, leave some comments on the YouTube page, the Facebook page, and remember to go and check out that Second Gear Talk Show. Oh, and Instagram as well. Yeah. Rudi takes care of a lot of that.
You've got more platforms than what I've got. I'm going to learn from you.
Yeah, we help each other.
What a pleasure.
But folks, thanks very much for joining us for this episode, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Cheers. Lekker, hopefully that went well.